is.
over.
There it is.
Rewind it.
Yeah, rewind it for a second. Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Um, so sorry guys, there was a audio issue there with the stream PC. We went through and did a bunch of upgrades, and um, something wasn't toggled. So fantastic. So we have Brandon Thayer in here with us tonight, and we are just kind of recapping the Watkins Glen race that he had his first Cup Series win in. Um, hey, you just want to go ahead and just quickly repeat what you just said?
Yeah, of course. It was a really fun race. As we were talking about, it was awesome to finally get my first Cup Series win at a Midwest Motorsports Cup League. It was a real nail biter toward the end there, racing with Ty and Justin. But throughout the entirety of the race, it was kind of on the nose with strategy. I wanted to save as much fuel as I could, but at the same time, wanted to also save tire, but wanted to keep pushing. So I was able to save some tire to not have to take tires whatsoever during the race, but also save enough fuel to be able to save some time at the end. It was a ton of fun. It was going into the race. I didn't expect to not take tires, and I kind of expected just to push through the entire time and just go as hard as I could. But as the race progressed, it ended up being a lot more strategy than I anticipated it being. So stuff like taking no tires throughout the entirety of the race. At the end, I was definitely struggling, and I think that showed with how quickly Ty and Justin had caught up to me. But I think it not I think I mean obviously I know it worked out, but it was definitely a risk.
Yeah, for sure. So before the podcast started, we were kind of just BSing about different things, and one of the things that came up was you were talking about calculating like fuel as you were driving, trying to figure out like, okay, is this going to be enough to make it to the end? Um, and I can tell you from my personal experience, I don't use any third party apps or anything that tell you like, hey, you can go this much further on this much fuel and have it calculate out for the rest of the race. I use the regular iRacing thing. Um, do you use any of those third party apps to kind of assist you with that, or are you mentally in your head just like, okay, I'm at this lap now, doing the math. I need this one here. I need this one here. Uh, are you kind of doing that mental math while you're driving?
That for the most part, yeah, I do use Race Labs, and I have a little fuel overlay, but it doesn't really do any of the calculating. It just tells me, my fuel amount and how many laps I potentially have left. But I mostly stick to whenever I'm unsure if Race Labs is correct or not. I'll stick to just kind of checking up on the fuel box in iRacing, but most of it is just kind of that mental math and just kind of guesstimating. It's really difficult, and I think I make it too hard on myself, and I overthink it quite a bit. But I also think I've gotten exponentially better at it since the start of the season.
Yeah. I can kind of piggyback off what you said there. I know there's a lot of races where we're like 20 laps in, just past the comp caution or coming up to it. And I'm thinking in my head, like, how many more pit stops do I have? Because I'm just going off just basically like the flat math. And sometimes that does come back and bite me. But that's awesome, man. Congrats on your first win. And that was a birthday win, correct?
Yeah, it was.
And how'd you end up celebrating that?
Honestly, I tried a few drinks for the first time since I was turning 21, and just hung out with my family a bit, and then did some streaming. Played one of my favorite games, Subnautica, and that was a ton of fun. But it was just nice and relaxing, exactly how I like it.
Good deal. Did you try any drinks that you liked?
The actually the best thing I've tried so far is raspberry Smirnoff with Sprite. I really like that.
Oh man, that's with Sprite. Okay, I'll have to I'll have to try that one. Back in the day, man, back in the
Back
day,
in my day.
yeah, back in my day, back as a little before you could drink. Smirnoff had this raw. It was called Smirnoff Raw Tea, and it tasted just like tea, man. That's what got me started. But um, that's awesome. Are you looking forward to any other races on the schedule this season? After winning at Watkins Glen, is there anything kind of like jumps out you like, man, I can go there and I can win, or that's another good race for me?
Uh, Go there and win. I'm not so sure. But I'm really looking forward to Martinsville and Phoenix. Martinsville is just a killer track. I just enjoy it so much, especially when we get those long runs. And Phoenix, back when we had the Xfinity series, that was my first ever win in the league was Xfinity Midwest Motorsports League. That is the Xfinity car at Phoenix. So that always has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, well, I have some bad news for you on Martinsville. That's my birthday race, so I'm winning that
Oof.
Y-
Well, I might not
You're
let you
about the
finish
only
that one.
one. You're about the only person praising Anthony for putting Martinsville
Hey,
on the schedule. So
there's some other people out there, but go ahead,
Anthony,
JT.
it's probably good that at least one person likes you. So
Wow,
it'll
buddy.
help you out. Um, so I guess out of the series, what's been your favorite car? I know you said you raced Xfinity and raced trucks, dabbled in it, and the Cup car. Do you like the next gen? Do you kind of miss the raw, I guess, inputs that you have to have in driving of the um, Xfinity, or what's the deal?
So, in terms of NASCAR cars, I've never raced anything other than the current gen Cup car, Xfinity car, and truck. So, out of those three, the Xfinity is by far my favorite. And now that I remember it, actually, my first win in this league, it wasn't at Phoenix. It was the Xfinity car at the Canadian Tire road
Mhm.
course. That was my first win. And there's just something about the Xfinity car with how responsive it is compared to like the Cup car, and just how as you said, Justin, just how raw it feels. That's definitely my favorite NASCAR. The Cup car isn't horrible. I don't like it as much as say the GTPs or the Xfinity car, but they're still quite enjoyable to race.
Okay, so actually some sports car racing. What are you into on that side of the iRacing service?
Yeah, I'm very much I love racing hypercars, the GTPs. Jordan Hale, who just recently joined the league, and actually Albert Ty Williams, we just recently did the Spa 24 together, and that was an absolute blast. I loved racing that. We raced in the Porsche car. In the past, I've also done the 12 hours of Sebring with Jordan, and we won that. We did the Petite Le Mans, which was, I believe that's a 12-hour race, and we came in third. I'm that's by far my favorite car to race in iRacing, and unfortunately haven't gotten too much time to race it lately, or really race much at all outside of race days for the Cup car for our league. But it's always a pleasure whenever I'm able to drive one of those cars.
Well, we got some great action Tuesday night. If you're free, man, more than welcome to sign up. Depending on your I rating, either GT3 or GT4. It's a little different of a discipline than I guess what you like with the hypercars, but I think James and maybe Anthony can attest. It's been an awesome half of the season so far.
Yeah, I actually gave it was a while back when I think when the series first started, I gave it a go in the GT4s, and I only did a handful of races, but I really enjoyed Long Beach in the GT4. That was a ton of fun. But other than that, I just can't say I'm a huge fan of GT4 racing. It feels a little sluggish to me. Uh, GT3s I definitely enjoy a bit more, but I'd be curious to try it out sometime.
Right on, right on.
James, you got anything here for Brandon?
Hey, Brandon, thanks for joining us tonight, man. You know, you mentioned you've been here for a while. I want to ask, I did look back at the Sim Racer Hub. Your first race was October 23 in a truck. And I wanted to know how you found Midwest Motorsports and how you got started.
Actually, I believe I had just started sim racing, or at least right around that time. I had started. I believe it was in July of 23 that I started, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And then uh my I'm trying to do the mental gymnastics. Sean Cunningham, who's getting married to my sister here very very soon, introduced me to the league and gave them a shout out to me, and I was like, sure. I've never done uh so like real league racing. I had previously done some league racing in an Indy car that did both ovals and road courses, and really enjoyed it. But there was just something about it that didn't really click for me, so kind of phased out of doing IndyCar. But getting introduced to Midwest has been a ton of fun so far. It's had its ups and downs, but overall, it's been a pleasure to race alongside with so many of these people.
Do you do you see yourself improving, I guess, over your past couple seasons here? Do you see like a big improvement gap? Or are you able to notice that?
Oh, 100%. Since I first started uh, at the league, it was pretty slow. I'm a grinder. I have to put a lot of time and a lot of effort in order to improve at something, whether it comes to live streaming or playing different video games or even just stuff outside of computers, whether it be building computers or at my job. I work IT for a college that I just recently graduated from, and just kind of little by little, by putting in a ton of time and effort, I find myself improving. So through those couple of years that it's been now with Midwest, I've improved exponentially from where I came from, both in terms of strategy and racecraft for sure.
Yeah, and to go off of that, is there a track type? I know we asked about your favorite tracks earlier. Is there a track type that you prefer to run at more so than the other? You do really well at these road courses. Is that one of your favorites, or yeah?
Road courses are definitely my favorites. Watkins Glen specifically, I believe, is my favorite track to race at with any car combo with it. It's always just so much fun. There's always a hint of strategy, but a lot of racecraft involved with it. Whether it's getting around traffic or just braking zones, like in the next gen car, it's so difficult to find your braking zone just for turn one alone. So it's always a toss up on if you hit your braking zone right or if you go straight on into the barriers. So I definitely enjoy road courses, but I think the shorter tracks, stuff like the very skill intensive tracks, if you will, stuff like Homestead, or I mentioned Martinsville, or like Phoenix. Those kind of tracks I really enjoy. Those intermediates. Uh, I can't say I'm a huge fan of restrictor plate racing. I find it kind of boring, honestly. I think that's a pretty hot take, but
No, I
I
can
don't
agree
know.
with you. I can agree with you. You go through and you basically draft with somebody for so long, and chances are you're going to get wrecked out before the end of the race, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, so what did you feel? How did you feel about us changing the Watkins Glen from the cup layout to the boot?
I I frankly, I don't think I was a big fan of it. It added a bit of spice, but I think that there's a bit of a reason, especially after racing it. There's a reason that we we don't the cup cars don't typically race around the boot, and it's especially that I'm not sure on turn names or numbers, but it's that right-hander uphill
Yep.
that really bothered me time and time again,
Yep.
and
No.
actually made a couple of mistakes on the previous turn of that, where you're going downhill into that left-hander. That's where I messed up a few times during the race, but that uphill right-hander always caught me off guard. And it's so narrow, it's so difficult to do any type of passing or to get the better of somebody there. So that worked in my advantage toward the end of the race, but it was definitely a unique experience to say the least.
Yeah. JT, you know the track. What part of the track is the right hander that's up that he's talking about there? Is it down in the heel?
Toe, toe or the heel? I don't know. Ankle, bunion. It might be bunion actually.
So
Um, I
I
thought
know.
I thought
Oh, go
once you
ahead.
figured it out though, I thought it was pretty fun. Um, Honestly, I think it was a good change, and I think the Cup car. I mean, I think we just used the standard walk-in setup, right? And
Yeah, we did.
Mhm.
so I think it actually, I think it drove pretty well. It was just, you had to be mindful of those various, um, I guess, intricate corners that the Cup car probably shouldn't really be able to do. It was more, maybe it drove more like the Garage 56 car. I thought that was pretty fun.
You mentioned the Garage 56 car. That would be, I don't foresee it ever happening. That would be a dream come true to take that car around a place like Watkins Glen on iRacing. I would love that.
Yeah, I wish they just scanned the thing and put it in there. I know almost everybody on the service would buy it, so it'd be well worth their time. But it'd be great to see like an actual cup type car be able to run in the rain at night with the lights and with the headlights at least. And I don't see why they haven't scanned it and put it in the game yet. It's beyond me. But
Dale needs to call up old Rick Hendrick.
yeah. Uh, one last one here for you, Brandon. So seeing as how we kind of went out of our norm there, and we took the cup car to Watkins Glen, and we've taken it to Brands Hatch in season pass. If you ran the next gen season, sorry, at Brands Hatch.
I don't believe I've ran the next gen there, but I do think I ran the truck there when we did that race.
Oh man, and you survived that?
Somehow.
Yeah,
Not,
dude.
not everybody's you, Anthony.
Well, so the rear end, because I remember running the Xfinity car there, and it took probably like 5 to 6 laps to get that rear end planted to where the rubber actually heated up and such. But is that something you could see yourself having fun with the next gen car, or I guess any of our Oval Series cars if we did take the racing abroad more, like let's say for instance like a Suzuka or a
And what Anthony's really asking is, would you show up if he put Bathurst in the next gen on the Sunday Cup
Bathurst
schedule?
is a possibility. Would
Oh,
you run Bathurst with this thing?
absolutely. That sounds like it would be that sounds like it would be carnage galore, but so much fun.
Yeah, Brandon's like, how many fast repairs do we get? That's the big question here.
If they can run Aussie V8s there, why can't they run the next gens?
True,
Pretty simple, right?
true, true, true. You're
Very
Um,
not
true.
wrong.
no, it's great,
Um,
and it's been a great pleasure having you on the air, Brandon. I know Ant wants to ask one more question, but before we get there, um, I want to ask you about a non-racing related question on your fun facts form. I appreciate you filling that out, over the seasons, but you mentioned that you have some interesting, I don't want to say livestock, I guess, but interesting pets keeping you company at home. You want to talk about your company at home there?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have
Have
some
a
ducks or something?
Yeah, we have a wide variety of animals. My family and I. We I believe last time I filled out that form we had I wrote down 6 dogs, but we actually have 7 dogs now. We got a husky named Milo. All of them rescues, including our 2 ducks, Sadie and Skipper. Uh, they're the sweetest little ducks that could ever be. I could never imagine myself having duck pets, but here we are. Uh, Used to have a bearded dragon, Lizzie, but unfortunately she passed away fairly recently. But
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer. She was dealing with a lot of health issues, but I gave her the best little life that she could have. But now a hamster aptly named Hammy has taken over her terrarium. uh, but yeah, we have a wide variety of. I couldn't tell you what breeds of dogs. They're all quite mixed. All of them, like I said, all of them rescues, which is it's been amazing to have them all.
Um, what's it like having ducks as a pet? Because I think ducks are awesome as hell. But I've never like, I don't think I could ever own one. I don't know, like, do I have a pond or anything out back?
Yeah, typically we have like a little kiddie pool that they swim in. Uh, it's just a pain to clean out every couple of days. They're not the loving kind of animals, especially Skipper the male. They're both Welsh Harlequin, is their breed. Uh, they don't fly, luckily, so we don't have to have like a roof over them. But yeah, they'll clean themselves. They all their needs they get. They love to forage as well. They'll dig their bills into the ground and find all the buggies they can get. It's always it's really cool to watch them. But I mean, they're just adorable.
Do you have a favorite breed of dog? So it seems like you're a dog
um,
guy. Y'all have 7 of them.
we might have a lot of dogs, but I think I'm more of a cat guy myself. if my
You're in
if
the
my
wrong environment.
if my dad wasn't allergic, I think I
Mm,
would have a cat. And whenever I move out here pretty soon, I'll most likely end up getting myself a cat.
okay.
I mean, cats are probably the easiest animal. I mean, they take care of themselves essentially.
Mm, that is true.
Yeah, just throw a little food down, a little bit of water, and they don't want to see you anyways. So it's easy. Oh, that's awesome. Um, all right, you guys have anything else, James, Justin?
Um, well, I know you're gonna wait and ask the standard question, I'm
If
sure,
you
right?
want, since you're an owner of the league, man, if you
No,
want to
no,
ask,
no, no, no. I'm not gonna ask it. What I was
okay,
gonna say
go ahead.
before you get there is so I'm recalling now that um like you said, Brandon, maybe your start, I guess, to the league maybe wasn't so smooth. Um, and I'm looking back. I was just looking a couple minutes ago, maybe through some chat history we had, and you're the type of guy like you mentioned earlier, like you're gonna grind it out, you're gonna figure things out, you're gonna work at it and things like that. So like you have that good attitude and that mentality that you're just not gonna say, you know, oh to hell with this because I was 4/10 off of lap time throughout the race or whatever the case may be. But um, looking through it, like some chat history that you and I had, like you're respectful in, if you own up to mistakes you make and you're open to learning. And I think that's just been a great quality and that's the type of I guess personality and character trait that we appreciate and we enjoy having you here and I hope you enjoy being here as well and for many more seasons to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I greatly appreciate that. I always want to put my best foot forward, even and in the past many of the races here lately, I unfortunately just don't have the time to practice between stuff like live streaming or spending time with friends or family or work. I just haven't had the time to be able to put in the practice I want to put in, but that doesn't mean I'm going to put in any less effort. And you mentioned owning up for mistakes, and I think that's something that should be pretty standard, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it is. Uh, if I mess up, if I outbreak myself, if I accidentally door slam somebody, like I think actually just yesterday, Justin, I going into I believe it was turn in the middle of turn 3 and 4, we barely touched, and I felt really bad about that, and I backed way off. But it
Well,
was,
don't do that next time, because I know you weren't doing it on purpose. It's part of the deal. We all walked away from it. It's all good. Because you know why? Because I know that like you weren't just gonna send it in there, wash up, and say to hell with him. You know what I mean? It's all good. Don't feel bad. That was fun.
it was a ton of fun, and Michigan's one of those tracks we're talking about, owning up to mistakes and all that, where a lot of mess happened, and a lot of things could have been avoided, but I think at the end of the day, it was still an enjoyable race to at least spectate and see what happened. But it is what it is. I think people should kind of just own up to their mistakes. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. I think sometimes I'm an overthinker. I mentioned that earlier. I tend to, whether it be my strategy or about other people, I tend to overthink. So if I mess up, I might not say something in the moment, because I might not know that it was my fault. I might have assumptions like this person just outbraked me, or they slammed into me, but really what might have happened is, I slide up into them without realizing I'm drifting out of my line. So it's something that should be a bit more standard, but I think there's still plenty of people, especially in this league, that do own up to it, which is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same page there, and you know, I'm a big proponent of that. Just own up to it. And maybe if it wasn't your fault, it wasn't your fault, but be the bigger person and admit when it is, and everybody learns from it and gets better, and you can race everybody, not just, trusting, oh, these 8, 9, 10 guys out of the field I know, are gonna react this way if I put my car here or what have you. And I've learned the hard way, unfortunately, just to stay the hell out of the way of Anthony. So I can
Whatever, dude.
finally finish. So I can finally. I'm talking, Anthony. Quite
Oh
rude.
yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Uh, I've learned quite well if I want to finish the night, just to get the hell away from him. But him and we race each other really hard, and um, 9 times out of 10, it's all good. And I know Anthony. If we get into it somehow, we'll both look at it. We'll bust each other's balls about it, but it ain't no problem at the end of the day. I've had the displeasure of knowing him for far too long. So,
We figure out 11 years,
uh, 10,
10, almost
10
11.
years, 10 years.
11 would be
Uh,
the cutoff. That's too
yeah,
long.
yeah. After 11, it's all over with.
Have a nice life.
Yeah. So Brandon, we have a question we like to ask all of our guests.
And
As we
there's no
end.
wrong answer, and you're not going to offend anybody. So
Yeah,
speak
there's
now
no
or
wrong
forever
answer.
hold your peace.
Yep. So think about it, give it a quick thought, and then whatever comes to mind, just blurt it out. You ain't offending anybody in here, but say a day comes along and we put you in the captain seat for a day. You get to run the ship. You're running the league, you're running Oval Series, however you want to see it. What is one change that you would make, whether it be a rule, a set of rules, tracks, car, whatever it might be,
Format.
start time, day, format, whatever, whatever comes to your mind. What's one change you would make if you were running the ship for a day?
Um, I I think the change I would make would be adjusting how the point system works. I know between two main reasons for that. One is I'm actually a fan of the playoff point structure, that's in regular NASCAR series, where it's kind of like an elimination more, so it makes the end of the season more interesting. Maybe a touch less skill based and a little more luck based, but I think that keeps things spicy. That it's entertaining to be a part of and to race. But kind of combination with that is the 5 points for the clean racing. I think that's a little much. Maybe an extra point. Uh, it would be more keen for me, because it feels like it just kind of discourages hard racing because people are more concerned about keeping their 0x than they are about racing as hard as they can because of an off track or a bit too much contact with hard racing or something like that.
So you're saying like your side of it would be, or your thought process on it is, if you're going into a corner and you're going to be less likely to try and make a pass that could result in a little bit of bumping when you have to brake a little bit more to keep that 0x versus the 4x, correct?
Yeah, so there was a situation, I believe it was at Watkins Glen, where I think it was Ty drove past me and was just revving his engine a little bit, and that gave him a off track, and he lost 5 points because of that. And that, I mean, that's just a really sucky situation to lose out on a good chunk of points because of that. And there's also been a few scenarios where someone who might be in like fourth or fifth when they cross the line ends up being the person with the most points because of those extra 5 points. And that's just a little, eh, I just don't think I'm too keen on that kind of being such a huge bonus to added points at the end of the race.
Yeah, I get that. We have that on our docket to look at the end of the season, like we always do. So we'll have to look at it and see what everybody comes up with. But that's some pretty good points there.
Oh, I have a follow-up on that, Brandon. You've been here long enough to have raced with the IPL rule. Did you prefer the IPL rule over the bonus for 0x, with like a pit lane start or, end of line stuff for going over the incident per laps and having to get back on the right side of the IPL, uh, affecting your starting position rather than uh, the 0x bonus points?
Um, Honestly, I don't think I prefer either. The downsides with the IPL were it was very harsh for being involved in situations that weren't your fault, especially when it was the beginning of the season. Because on a track like Daytona, you're probably going to rack up a good bit of incident points just because of that last lap and maybe the last few overtimes. So it's a little sketchy, and a little unfair. Um, I is as much extra work as it would be something like a manual review of incidents would be, I think, really nice. But then again, I know that's a ton of extra and added, not necessary work.
I mean, the way the system is now, do you, like, if I could ask it a different way, do you think it's harsh enough, but not as difficult from a driver who gets maybe put on the IPL list because okay, well, I'm just basically going to have an EOL to start next week's race, and I don't have to worry about, say, joyriding to get my IPL up, so I'm off of the race. Like I just know it's a 1 week, penalty versus which some people have been on the IPL for like
Whole
multiple
season.
weeks. Yeah.
Mm. I definitely, in terms of that, I prefer the current system. It's just the amount of bonus points I think is the part that I think is extreme. I couldn't help but I saw Jason Phillips in the chat saying it rewards clean racing. I completely agree, and I think that's a good point to make. I think having maybe one extra point for clean racing for maintaining a 0x, that would still be a positive thing. I think having 5 points is maybe a little much though.
Is
No,
it
it's
what
just
what is the happy medium in your opinion?
I think 1 point for a 0x at the end of the race, because it still could potentially be meaningful because it all adds up, but it's not, as extreme as someone who's in third having more points than someone who's in first just because they kept their 0x.
yeah, it's
Cool.
just trying to find that good balance, I guess,
Mm.
to where you're not snowballing points. I know I want to say it was a couple seasons ago. We had an issue with snowballing points with between the stages and different bonuses we were giving out. You'd have people get gigantic leads, and without a like an actual playoff reset, you'd go into the playoffs. We'd reset. They get all these bonus points, and it would be a snowball effect. So we went through and kind of changed that. So, um, yeah, I agree in a way. It is kind of just trying to find that balance of where you're not issuing out too many points, but then you're also not issuing out too little points to the point where somebody says, "Oh well, I'm gonna," you know, and not saying anybody in this league would do that, but I'm going to put my nose into this quarter panel and send this guy up the track, give him a
Yeah.
4X, give myself a 4X. I'm going to win the race. We still want to try and encourage like these clean finishes, like you and Ty, for example, out at Watkins Glen. Now, uh, I know I'll finish there. I wanted to ask you this before the podcast, but it slipped my mind. There was another 1-2 finish between you two, wasn't there, at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it was. I don't remember if it was what series it was, but I think that's happened 2 other times actually. If I think it was Trucks and Xfinity that's happened. Um, if a big if I'm remembering that correctly.
I don't
But
know. I
yeah,
don't know why. I'm thinking it might have been next gen, and you were in position to where you could have gave him the bumper, but you were like, I don't want to win that way.
yeah, no, absolutely. That's not the type of person or racer that I am. If I want to win, I want to do it with skill and integrity, not by dumping someone and just running with it.
For
Ralph, I'm
sure.
clapping. You probably can't hear that, but I'm applauding.
No, that's the kind of racing we like, and we appreciate that kind of stuff. Like Justin said, we appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. It's definitely definitely a great talk. We didn't know you had so many animals, or uh,
I was thinking you guys are gonna like, mesh. He'd be like, "Yeah, I got raccoons and parrots and chinchillas."
oh yeah, I didn't even get into what my parents have, but yeah, no, it was a great conversation, and hopefully we can have you back on the podcast here soon as a repeat guest. We have some more conversations, and maybe by then you'll have multiple wins or even a championship. So we'll see how things go, and remember, this weekend it's my birthday, so Martinsville is mine.
Well,
Give
good luck.
Anthony the bumper.
Hey, if it's for the win, I might just decide to dump you. I'm just
Yes.
saying. I'm
Yes,
just
you
saying.
heard it here first, folks.
I'm keeping this as evidence.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and keep making the best content I can imagine you guys making.
All right, buddy. Well, you have yourself a great night. And again, we appreciate you coming on here and look forward to seeing you on the track here Sunday.
Sounds good. Have a good one, everybody.
See you, Brandon. Thanks.
See you.
Man, another good conversation. I tell you what, the last couple guests we've had on here have been some really good convos. Uh, what'd you guys think of that? What'd you take away from that conversation there?
James.
Oh man, Brandon's chilled dude. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He just kind of keeps an even keel. And I think that's what you know we all enjoy racing in our sim rigs, and we do it for fun as a stress reliever. And he doesn't take himself too seriously, but he is there to try to win. So, and remember to have a good time for everybody, and everybody's trying to enjoy it. So that's what I took from hanging out with Brandon tonight.
For sure. Definitely an interesting topic to get onto with what he would change with the league if he could. Again, that's just a balance we need to find as admins to where it still rewards people for racing clean, but it doesn't uh snowball in a way into like a giant points lead. So we got things we can look at in the off season, but that's for another time. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the road series, guys. James, where were y'all at over past Tuesday?
Drum roll, please. We went all the way across the pond, around the other side of the pond, the other pond. From California, we hopped over to Suzuka, Japan, for our endurance race, um, and race 5 of 10 in the road series. So we're officially over the halfway point, and, of course, Suzuka, it's raining. I mean, buckets. So everybody qualified on wet tires. I don't know if that was good, bad, or indifferent, but it's the track conditions we were dealt with. And yeah, I mean, it was leading up for an exciting race. So I think everybody knew it was going to rain ahead of time, right, Justin? Did you come in
Oh, yeah.
prepared for a wet race?
Yeah, 100%. So I don't think anybody really had a choice to start on dries.
Right, right. Um, but yeah, pretty awesome. I'm looking for Jason Phillips was on the pole and GT3s with Michael Odell, who we haven't seen at every race this season. So it's good to see him back in the Corvette. Uh, Jay McNeely, Chase Fincher, row 2, Johan DeRoy, and Jamil Gummer, row 3. So, I mean, completely stacked front 6 for the GT3 cars. I mean, these guys put on one heck of a show for the first probably 20 minutes up to the first pit stop, and they're just running nose to tail in the rain. Shout out to Taylor Montague um, for putting it on the pole in the GT4. The AM division race was just as good. Christopher Hopper shared row 1 in the GT4s with Taylor, and coming on to the straightaway on lap number 2 or 3, Hopper got his right rear on the pit lane exit line, on throttle, and tried to turn to get back online, on the dry weather racing line, and for some reason ran out of traction, ran out of grip. So he went sideways, crunched his nose in the wall, had to get a tow back to the pits. That was unfortunate for Hopper. We were really looking forward to another good race, good wet race for Christopher Hopper. Wasn't meant to be. Um, but Taylor Montague and Jason Geyer and the black McLaren with the orange hood was setting fast laps. The track was starting to dry out, continuing to dry out, um, back and forth. So me and Adam both were watching the lap times very closely. Um, Adam, again, with the great call in the broadcast booth with me. Don't want to forget, um, how much fun we're having in the broadcast booth. I think there were 40 cars entered in the race. Was it 34, something like that? What was the total, Justin? Do you remember?
I can get it for you in just a second.
Yeah, I'm looking to. I'd see 34 cars.
Maybe.
Yep, all good. And yeah, like I say, it was just awesome racing. Justin, you were. I talk us through up to I guess the first 2 pit stops. You were racing with John Daniels. Was that close to the middle or the end? Did you have any other good battles on the track?
Mm, Man, I feel like the first stint I was like it was like Steve watch. I think Shay got I don't
Mm,
know. I don't remember if Shay
yeah.
out qualified me or and fell backwards, had a little maybe a little slide and had to gather it up or not, but maybe that was Imola, dude. I can't all these rain races we have keep running together. But I feel like at the start of the race, like that first stint I was hanging, it was like somebody in front of me and then Steve and like man in the rain it's like, how aggressive do you maybe want to be? Because you really don't have, in a track that might have 4 lines, you're down to maybe 2 if you're lucky. Usually just 1. So, um, so it's kind of just like well, I'm stuck here in a sense, so I kind of just rode it around, and then had some battles with Daniels, and then me and I believe David Stark.
Yep. David
He
Stark.
runs an Audi.
Yep.
We always seem to somewhat every other week or so find each other because I was kind of running him down for a bit, and I know going into I kept gaining on him. I think in the last stint or like the second to last stint before everybody was on dries. And all I remember was him kind of going into turn one, and like I was on his bumper because I was able to brake a little deeper than him. And he just went sideways, and I was like, I don't think I touched him. Like I had to kind of check up and dive down to the inside and avoid that. But I think from my point, it was a super difficult race to just get your strategy right because it started to dry up, and then like it was raining at what is it, the Honda or Honda curves or whatever, the double left-hander before the backstretch.
Yep.
And then that eventually migrated over to like the front stretch, so it was like, oh, maybe we made the wrong call going to dries on the last stop. Maybe we should have went to wets, but like the weather was just so crazy and it was hard to determine, I guess. A lot of guys nailed it right. They went on dries with the second to last stop, at least in the GT3 class, um, and they got it right. Whereas the guys who maybe stayed on wets because they were just a little more um, concerned maybe with the weather, didn't get it so right.
But then it started raining again. So,
Exactly, man.
yeah, totally unpredictable. I think um, that really, I, I, I don't want to call it luck because I do believe you make your own luck. But man, at some point, you just kind of have to make a plan and go with it. I think a lot of people's stuck with the wet tires, and then the track came back to them, but they
Yep.
didn't know that the track was going to come back to them or not. It was just, trying to read that radar just right. Incredibly difficult. I also want to talk about, you mentioned Shea McNeely had a little bobble. I think he got some help in that bobble coming out of the hairpin with Johan DeRoy. So I did not get to ask Johan about it. I didn't want to put him on the spot after a win. Maybe I should have. Maybe I missed the balls. So, um, I don't want to bring it up after the fact with Johan. It's probably in the past, but um, I'm curious to know how Shea would have done if he didn't spin coming out of the hairpin with a little bit of help out. It was just so close. I mean, uh, Phillips and Odell were in their pit cycle, and it was Johan DeRoy following Shea McNeely. I think Johan was faster. Johan didn't really put a wheel wrong, and Shea McNeely was having to defend. I could tell he was under pressure. We could tell he was under pressure, but man, little touch is all it took when the traction is on the limit already. So I don't think it was intentional, but it was definitely avoidable. So
I will say that, the week before at Imola with all the rain, I thought that um, Imola was just super slick and difficult. I would race Imola in the rain 10 times out of 10 compared to the race we had at Suzuka.
yeah, was it the level of water on the track surface or just the grip itself? What made it so different?
It just seemed like it was just you're almost on oil, and like there was weird like water spots that you wouldn't think were there. Like for instance, turn one it's all banked pretty much. And if you drove it in, even if you were, half a lane, half a car up off of the curbing where you would think the water would be, like if you didn't brake, like because normally you can brake going deep and wash it up and kind of V off turn one at Suzuka. But even if you try to just stay in the middle, mid corner, for some reason, like I think a lot of guys were getting caught up there, if I recall correctly, because like just something would
Yep.
grab right there. And then the S's, I don't think were too terrible. You could almost take the racing line there with just your throttle inputs being smooth. and then the uphill left-hander before the fast right-hand kink. Fast right-hand kink was rough. 130R was terrifying lap after lap. Yeah, it was just hard, man.
It was so hard for everybody. We saw a lot of people spin that we normally don't. Um, Michael Odell got really loose there. Brian Coxon got loose. I think that was earlier in the race, but it was still, um, I believe it was the Dunlop curves, which is after the S's on the uphander, uphill left-hander before Degna. But also, um, Jamil Gummer spun. I'm not sure if he got two wheels off in the grass. The other one that spun was Jason Phillips, and I made a short of it because I know Jason Phillips would be a good guy and take it on the chin and not take it personal. But he got into Ian Bakaitis coming out on the exit of turn one, and Jason Phillips turn two, and Jason Phillips in a GT3 Acura, of course. Ian Bakaitis in a GT4 BMW, and kind of hit him. He spun, but nosed in on Ian Bakaitis' driver's side door, and Ian Bakaitis did a perfect 360, grabbed a gear and went for it. So, um, and then Jason, mentioned, of course, that he felt bad when it happened and got a tow back, and that might have been when he needed his 8 minutes of repairs and was a couple of laps down. So, but yes, this was one of those races for the record books. If you didn't see the replay, there's so much more going on. Also in the chat, Michael Odell's dad was in there, Tim Odell, and he said that Michael Odell had his VR headset go empty in one eye. So I wanted to ask Ant if that's ever happened to you. Ant, have you ever? I know you mentioned that you've had a complete disconnect. Have you ever lost one side of the VR?
No. No, I have not. Just
He's
disconnects.
lost both sides of the VR.
Yeah, both sides went disconnects, but that's about it.
I mean, would that be kind of like losing one monitor of the triples or two monitors of the triples? Or is it
Uh
different?
that's actually an excellent question. I kind of wonder if it'd be like losing one eye midway through your race and then having to drive with one eye. Because you can still look. So your other lens, so say you lose your right lens, your other lens, if you look to the right, is going to pick up whatever's on the right.
Yeah,
So
rotate
it
180 degrees like an owl.
yeah, you
Maybe
would
right side.
essentially you'd lose your right eye. So next time you guys are driving with your triples, I guess take your hand and cover up your right eye and see how you go.
Yeah, but you're right. I understand what you're saying about where you look. That matters. But yeah, it's in the playlist. As the most recent race. Definitely check it out. The racing went on and on, wet to dry to wet, and worth every minute of it. Before too long, Johan de Roy was able to stretch out about a 20-second gap, I believe, for the final, 12 or 15 minutes. Shea McNeely made it back up to second. Chase Fincher qualified this time. He qualified fourth and finished third, I believe, with a 0x. So Chase Fincher, good on you, buddy. 0x at Suzuka with all that. Justin, what do you think? Zero.
Impressive. Impressive. I was close, man. I was close. I had that spin at 130R myself, and then I think two off tracks after that because it didn't really matter. So that was impressive, man. Well, there's all types of different corners there at Suzuka, and through the S's, and then you have some sweepers and some high speed stuff, and to do all that in the rain and get a 0x is a nice cherry on top.
Good for him. Jamil Gummer, without that last spin, I think could have had second. I think he was in front of Shea McNeely when he spun, but it was just one of those things. And on the AM side, Chester Miller came out. Chet Miller came out with the win. He qualified 14th, so gained a lot of positions through being smooth and consistent and keeping his four tires on the black stuff. Taylor Montague, your pole sitter, finished second. Landon Sprinkle finished third. So Jason Geyer was my honorable mention. He had a really fast car and was all in the mail in his McLaren. Um, and good to see Keith Hurlbut with the top 5 as well. So I think that's a pretty good run for Keith. And that's the AM division, which is pretty exciting as well. I wish we had a lot more cameras and probably 2 more commentators. We could, keep an eye on everybody racing all it together. Um, but we have a great time in the broadcast, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. So go back and watch the replay. It's definitely worth it.
Always
We're,
is.
get, we're getting ready for tomorrow, though. I mean, tomorrow is going to be an exciting race at Monza. Um, yeah, hopefully it's going to be dry. I don't know how often it rains at Monza. Of course, it has to, but I think I saw Justin say you're going to um, send a message to iRacing if you come to fix their Tempest system. If
I
it rains.
might, man. I might. I'm tempted. I'm tempted to have them change the Tempest system. You're right.
Yeah.
Here, I thought you were going to have them, or you're going to send a message to iRacing so it would keep Steve away from you at this track.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Hope that happens too.
Are you going to
Steve,
grace us with your presence, Ant?
It all depends on my sleep schedule, man. If I can get some sleep tomorrow morning, yes. If I can't, I'm out.
Red Bull.
Yeah,
Good
dude.
evening.
I live off of those at night.
Well, yeah. So what's the problem?
Yeah, I can't drink them night in or pre-race, then all night either. I mean, I'm already killing
Yeah,
myself
you'll
as
be
it
all
is.
right. You know what you do? You toss back a 5-hour energy right on
I do
top.
that too, man. I do that
Wow.
too. One, maybe two a night.
Yeah, we did enough of that before, so.
Yeah, no, it just keeps going. The tradition keeps going. But we'll
Big
see,
sign up
James.
list. Big sign up list too.
Yep.
I hope you join us, Ant. But yeah, checking the sign in list. It's going to be stacked. So turn 1, lap 1. Be patient, please.
Steve.
Everybody, not just Steve. 41 signups already
Yep.
as of right now.
um, I do have the points up on the screen there, James, for the pro division.
Yeah. This is without the drops. Shay McNeely, Johan DeRoy, and Jason Wahlberg, top 3. John Daniels, Travis Rowe in a battle, and Jamil Gummer and Travis Rowe right there together. I mean, 15, 20 points separating 4th through 7th. So even JT's got a chance. You got Brian Coxon on your hindquarters there, JT. So, yeah, halfway through the season, though. So this could go completely flip flop in the next 5 races and one more endurance race to go to.
Yeah, especially when those drop races hit.
Yeah. Drop races, double points for endurance. So,
Yep. And the AM division, we have Chester Miller leading that, Jason Gare in second, Ian Bakaitis third, Ron Cabiltas fourth, Kyle Ryan fifth, Landon Sprinkle sixth, Chris Hopper seventh, Dan Gish eighth, Matt Collada ninth, and Taylor Montague 10th. Looking at that, there's a lot of places that can switch hands over the next 5 races, especially when those drop races come in. There's a lot of tight races going on there. So be interesting to see once the drop races do hit how this is going to shake up, because there could be a couple either there's going to be a couple people switching spots, or it's going to tighten up that much more. So it'll be interesting to see once these drop races hit the changes it makes.
Mm-hmm.
and just to be clear, the drop races are the total number of points for that event that you score, not your best finish compared to how many people are in the field or whatever. It's your lowest number of total points on that for that race to get dropped.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead and move into oval. Looks like the trucks were out in Michigan over the weekend. Judging by the screen, it looks like Eric Thaler brought home the win there. Was it a pretty close race there, James, throughout the night?
Well, Eric Taylor had a pit lane start and he brought home the win. So
Wow, with the pit lane start.
yeah,
They had a drive-through, I think, too.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, no qualifying. Well, he tried to qualify and then had to do a drive-through. So
Yeah, he's breaking the law, as he
yeah,
should. Shame
Wait a
him.
second. You mean to tell
Shame
me
him.
the godfather of Midwest Motorsports didn't know he had a penalty or knew he had a
He
penalty
knew.
and still proceeded to qualify?
yep,
Well, yeah.
Shame. Shame.
breaking the law.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't
Just
say
because
we
he's the
play any
godfather.
favorites around here.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, tell me this story, man. How in the world did Eric Thaler go through a drive-through penalty and still pull
The,
off a win?
the competition caution helped him. I think he was able to stay on the lead lap even with his drive-through because it was just a drive-through. And then they competition caution at lap 10. And we had a caution at lap 15. Eric came in and got fuel again, and then there were not that many people that came in and got fuel. And actually, even with the pacing laps at lap 15, I think he pitted at 15 and got fuel, and then he came in again at lap 16 as they were gridding up, just to top off. So he really, as um, fuel started from lap 17, and everybody else started from lap 10. So there you go. There's 7 laps difference on the fuel on board. You know, he's in the back. I don't blame him one bit. Didn't have track position anyway. Um, so yeah, we go and it goes green all the way to the end. From there, the racing was so tight. I really enjoyed calling the races there. I remember Michael Samia, Ian Silva having lap after lap battles, um, and natural natural pit stops. And the Michigan track is wide enough that they really everybody fans out looking for clean air on their nose in the corners. So I mean, I'm not driving. Justin, you tell us how to get around at Michigan and what your race was like. You were the one of the first ones to pit, by the way. You pitted before everybody else.
Yeah. Michigan, I found. I want to get Anthony's opinion. I feel like even on um fresh tires, I felt like 1 and 2, you had to just be patient to get the front end around to maximize your drive out of the corner. Um, 3 and 4, you could definitely kind of drive it uh, down towards the yellow line on entry. And get on the power pretty early on fresh tires, but then once you were kind of on worn tires, you had to definitely move up the track, and then it just got super hard. I think I mean, I don't know. Speaking from my own perspective, more difficult once everybody kind of got evened out on older tires, trying to make moves. I got stuck behind Aaron, which was a fun battle for a while towards the end there. Just couldn't get around him. So I was more or less kind of like taking a later entry, once the tires had a stint on them, into 1 and 2, and just trying to just be patient with letting and a lot of throttle control for me in 1 and 2, just to get the front end around. But I was a good probably 1.5, 2 lanes off the bottom in 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 I was pretty well up high. You can kind of like come off of the wall, come down an entry, and then let it ride up to the wall on the exit of 3 and 4. Um, but I just wasn't willing to give up the top, especially going into 1 and 2.
I don't know how the trucks handled out there, if it was any different than the next gen, but um, biggest thing I noticed about the track, and I don't know if you noticed it, Jay. Did you ever venture down to the bottom of 1 and 2 where there was actually like a transition at the bottom of the track
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
yeah, I
Slippery as
got
hell.
like, yeah, and there was actually like it was kind of like a hump throughout the whole
Mm.
corner. So if you got down in there and your front left tire touched that, like at least in the next gen, it would make the car uneasy, and you'd start to
Mhm.
get loose and wiggly coming up out of the corner, and you'd be chasing it all the way to the wall.
And the
Um,
exit of two is just so tight. Like, if you ran the bottom there, you have to have way more patience to get on the throttle on the exit of two.
you definitely have to do it right. If you don't hit your marks, you're going out into the wall, and unfortunately, if somebody's out there, you're going to take them into the wall too. But that's just how I seen the track, James.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I know that it's kinda like a D shaped where the exit of 2 goes into the back straights, which is kinda straight line into turn 3, where the start finish line kinda it's not a double dog leg, but it's more a gradual curve to get back into turn 1, so I can see exactly the points that you're talking about. That might be why the track plays out like that, but also, I do remember I need to, make a note to Sean Happick and Chris Thaler that I put a lot of blame on that incident on Sean Happick at the time. Watching Far Chase, just on the replay, I put it all most of it on Sean. I thought it was avoidable, but after I looked at it again in the replay, I reached out to the 80 truck and told him I'd try to be a little more thoughtful or intuitive on the broadcast next time. But anyway, we went back racing at 17. Again, Eric Taylor's got a fresh tank of gas. Everybody else is um, working from lap 10. And that was how it played out. Robert Sanders was nailing it. Nicholas Aslan was up there in front as well. And then the green flag pit cycles came, and everybody's about 2 or 3 laps. We had the whole cycle. And then 3 laps later, Eric would come in, and then everybody would come in within 3 or 4 lap window. The pit cycles would throw out, and then 5 or 6 laps later, here comes Eric, and he was able to save a whole pit stop. And when he came out of his last stop, I'm sorry, when Dustin came out for his final stop, he had to chase Eric down like over 8 seconds, I think, when Dustin came out of the pits, and couldn't do it. He got back within 3, but Dustin ran out of laps, and Eric Thaler was able to stay out in front. So fuel save, I don't know how he did it, but he's had enough practice at it and playing it smart with the cautions. Eric Thaler gets the win by doing one less pit stop than everybody else.
That's how you do it. I mean, starting from the pits and all, and a drive through. Uh, Still crazy to think about. I mean, you have to really manage your stuff at that track. I know I was burning up tires left and right over the weekend, and to be able to do that and work your way from the back of the field, even with a competition caution, that doesn't guarantee you going to the front of the field. It just re-racks everything, but that's still an impressive feat. And congrats, Eric, on the win.
Hmm.
Um, so looking at the points for the truck series, we got Dustin Reinstedel in the lead there. Ian Silva in second, Trevor McLaughlin third, Eric Thaler in fourth, Brandon Cotton in fifth, Robert Sanders in sixth, Nick Aslan seventh, Justin, you're back there in eighth, Mike Scamilla in ninth, and Jason Phillips in 10th. It does look like from about second place down, that's a really, really tight battle between everybody. Dustin kind of ran away with this one. Let's see how the drop races go with their points and see if it catches anybody up. But as of right now, he's got a pretty commanding lead with just the regular season points. So
6 races left in the season.
yep, and the trucks are off to
Gateway.
uh, Gateway. Yeah, that'll be a fun track for everybody.
A little bit shorter. Turn 1 and 2 are tighter than 3 and 4. And it's relatively flat, less banking at least. I think it's like 11 degrees where Michigan was 18, so about half the banking.
Yeah, and it does create some good racing. So we'll see how everything plays out this Friday out at WWT.
Hmm.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, catch you all there on Friday. the Cup Series was also out in Michigan. That was last night. Yep, last night. So Ty
You were
Williams
there.
came. Yeah, I tell you, man, a day anymore feels like forever. Ty Williams came away with the win there, driving the 81 CCR Motorsports machine. So um, that race was tough for me, I will say. No practice. When I did hop into practice, I think I was like 13th out of all the drivers on speed, and it was just tough. Like, yeah, I couldn't find a way to get around that track at all. So, um, not a great race for me. The finish was pretty good, but everything in between was kind of just reaching in the dark trying to find something. Um, James, let's go ahead and let's start the recap, and we can pitch in where we can.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Williams, Dustin Reinsettle on the front row. Again, we're still at Michigan. Um, I think no, it was Ian Silva
I
on the
mean,
pole. Ian Silva, the 51 on the pole. Good to see him racing in
wait,
the.
Uh,
wait.
Oh, that's trucks. What the hell am I talking about? Sorry, I was like, wait a minute. What's wrong with that picture? Thank you. Um,
He's probably at work in the morning when we're running
right?
stops. That's
No,
what's wrong
Ryan,
with the picture.
nah,
I knew something was
he's
twisted.
he's the Ryan Newman of both series now.
Apparently, no, it's all good. Sean Cunningham on the pole, and Brandon Cotton shared the front row with him. Um, Ty
Oh,
Williams third. You're second.
props, real quick. Props to Sean Cunningham. That was a heater that dude laid down for that qualifying lap. That was fast.
Trying to look for the qualifying lap.
I
And
think it
Eric
was
Taylor was fourth.
Yeah, I think it was like a 28, like 28-8. And I think Ty or who's in second, you say? Was it Ty?
38, 38-9 for Sean Cunningham.
38-9. That was it.
Brandon Cotton was second, 39-0. So I mean, they're both. Those are all in the mail. Do you want me to say what you got for your?
No.
I mean,
No.
far off.
Yeah, it wasn't that far off, but it definitely wasn't. It wasn't up there. It would kind of detract from it. But go ahead. Let's get into this.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that 2/10 can be the difference in row one versus row four. I think it
Hmm.
says a lot about the quality of drivers we got, even though there are only 18 drivers in the field. Um, yeah, we go green racing, and then we get an early wreck at by lap four. Um, the 11 and the 5 got into it, and that sent the 5 up in the safer barrier on the outside. Remember, this is lap four, right? The race just began. So the 5 got in the uh, the safer barrier in the middle of 3, I believe, and then I think he was trying to make his way down to the pits and came across the whole track. The yellow had not thrown yet. And Justin, it looked like the 5 just came down right in front of you. And you didn't have anywhere to go. And then the 3 didn't have anywhere to go. And he went up and hit the 77. So what happened on lap 4? How did it kick off so early? Everybody just trying to get all they got?
Yeah, I think it was.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of hard racing at lap four, trying to keep all the positions you can get, and um, it just looks like there wasn't enough space, you know, between the two cars. So again, everybody's trying to take as much as they can there, and there just wasn't any give. And when there isn't any give, something happens and you get spun. Unfortunately, it had to happen on lap four, but hopefully, the two drivers kind of, can look at the replay and realize that there's still what 96 laps to go in the race.
Right. 100 laps. 100 lap race. So yeah, a lot to play for, even on lap 4. Um, but again, Brandon Cotton, Sean Cunningham start off. I don't think Brandon Cotton pitted, if I believe right. He stayed out. Sean Cunningham second, and Ty Williams third when they restarted. Um, Shout out to Aaron Holroyd and his Coast Guard 73. That was our guest, or will be our guest coming up in soon to be the next episode of the Cool Down Lap. But he was running up front in the top 4, really close racing, at least at the beginning, and uh, yeah, it continued on. So we're cranking out laps. We're going green pretty much the whole way again. Green flag stops, racing
Yeah,
cycling out. Go ahead,
we
Aaron.
didn't have any cautions after that comp caution there at the beginning, correct? It was green flag the rest of the way.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd say leading up to that first green flag pit cycle, JT, I don't know how you were dealing with your tires, but I was eating mine alive. I think I ended up pitting in just below 80% of my right front. Um, and you could feel that going through the corner. Through 3 and 4, you'd have to turn the wheel a little bit harder, scrub speed off, and 1 and 2 definitely. If you missed just a little bit, you would scrub off so much speed, and it was
Mhm.
killer on time. So I ended up taking tires that first green flag pit stop, and I believe you did too, right?
Honestly, I don't remember because like I thought I was gonna use this at my last stop, but I didn't have.
So if I remember
Probably I did.
correctly, the first stop you accidentally took tires because you were like, I ain't gonna take them, and then you said, "Oh, well, I accidentally had them checked, so I took them anyways." And
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I I decided to take tires on that first stop just to see, how much more speed I could get out of it, which was exponentially a lot of speed. Like I was surprised at the difference. I was able to rein the leaders in pretty quick.
Mhm.
And I didn't get to watch the replay yet or anything, but who who was up in the booth with you again, James?
Yeah, Michael Harris.
Yeah, Michael Harris said something about me going from sixth to first in one corner.
Yes,
That's
you don't.
all tires,
Okay, that was all tires.
all tires. But I haven't got to see it, so I don't know how it looked or anything. Hopefully, it looked cool, but
Very
um, yeah.
going
But
into three,
going into where?
going into turn 3, um, and you were like fourth. Well, I mean, it was the heavy hitters: Brandon Cotton, Justin Reinstedel, Ty Williams, Don Cunningham, and 57. Joseph Phelps. This was his like fourth race, I think. Um, and you passed them all, brother. I mean, you just went in there. There may have even been a lap car in the middle as well. So it looked like you passed 6 cars in one corner. It's just like you went in bonsai and forgot to brake, but you stuck and kept going.
Oh, yeah, I think that was after the pit cycle, and Aaron Holroyd, I believe, was behind me, and Phelps,
Yep.
followed by Justin. Yeah, that was a charge to the front, and let me tell you, man, Aaron Holroyd was putting in some
Mhm.
some laps, and that Phelps also. I mean, he was putting in some pretty good laps too. So it was good to see some competition out there that was close to my level.
Yeah. I mean, this was the battle for the lead. I mean, granted, it might have been pit cycles, but okay, that's how the race plays out. You got to go. You got to go. So
For sure.
that was
So
pretty. Ty Williams, Dustin, Joseph Phelps, Brandon Cotton, Aaron Holroyd, Justin Taylor. You were in the top 5 and
Yeah.
7. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michigan played out to be like maybe one of our better, like, what strategy is going to prevail races, right? Because I think there's quite a lot of, guys maybe running up front, and the shuffle was happening so frequent, I feel like.
there was a lot of different strategies going on at Michigan. I don't know if the broadcast booth picked it up or not, but
Yeah.
you had Justin,
He's
myself.
saying you weren't watching the same race, James. Don't take that from him.
No, they
No.
don't. They don't get the kind of information, like they don't get these guys are taking tires on this stop, or
How
they
do you
got.
know that you didn't even watch the replay?
I've been in the broadcast booth with you, buddy.
Watch this one. We kept track. We
Yeah,
didn't make notes, but we can tell by how long the stop was. What we can't tell sometimes is if you take two. We don't know if you took two or not, but or if you just fuel. So, um, but yeah, we were privy to it, knowing that you only had like uh, two on the floor, right? One on the car and two on the floor.
yep, correct.
So I love this short or the small fuel tank. I
Mhm.
love it. It makes you decide if you're gonna take tires early or late, and then based on how big of a gap you got or how big of a deficit you got, to whether you're going up or down when you choose towards the end of the race. So you don't really know if your strategy is going to work until the last pit stop is over.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just going back to that, I thought I could keep Brandon Thayer behind me for a pretty good position and probably pick off JT before the end of the race, but he ended up sneaking a set of right sides on him there at the end. So if there was just a bunch of different strategies. I'd be interested to know like the different points in time and people took tires, because I felt like I took them early, JT you took them early, and it was probably not as beneficial as keeping them till late, but
Mhm.
it's just something to put in the back pocket till next time.
Mhm.
Are you volunteering to be the full-time statistician beyond Larry McReynolds?
Oh yeah, do I get my own cutaway car?
We can't afford that. Stop. Stop.
We
It's
getting
all
bought
digital
in
now.
here.
You just buy a 3D model kit and electronic. Um, buy a Lego. They have a next gen Lego. Will that work, Ant?
He's
I don't
not
know.
old enough to
Lego.
play with Legos.
Yeah, I probably
He'll
eat one of the
swallow the
blocks.
pieces.
All the pieces. That's right.
Yeah. Um.
Well, when it came down to it, I'll wrap it up. Did you have anything else, Ant?
No, no, that was it. I was just about to say, let's go
So
ahead
in
and
the
wrap her up.
final cycle came through. Dustin Reinstedel pitted before Ty Williams. Ty Williams went about 4 laps later. Came in, did not need tires, and they about came out together, side by side. And Dustin Reinstedel was leading. Ty Williams just came out of the pits. Only took fuel, I believe. I'm pretty sure, and then was able to get around Ty. It wasn't a dirty slide job. Um, the first one they went, it could have been a slide job, but Ty did not, overlap in front of him. And then one more lap, and Ty Williams was able to look in his rearview mirror and see there was enough distance to slide up in front of Dustin Reinstedel. And then Joseph Phelps ended up getting past Dustin Reinstedel as well in the last 3 or 4 laps. So the final results: Ty Williams, Joseph Phelps, Dustin Reinstedel. It was awesome.
Phelps was a thorn in my side for so much of that race.
Yeah, he was
I
moving.
tell you, there were a couple times where you'd be going into 1 and 2, and you just see that Traveler's whiskey car just dive down towards the bottom. You're like, where to go? And then you're coming out of 2 on the top, and then out of nowhere, here it comes right up next to you. You're like, oh god, don't slam me into the wall.
I mean, it
But
was fun. I had enjoyment, but like Ant said, you're like, all right, he's kind of like at my left rear. He's kind of at my door going into one dawn, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing this for the 18th time.
Yeah.
It was all
Yeah.
good though. It was fun. It was fun.
I mean, going back to the beginning of the race with some of the antics that happened on lap 4. I mean, I can't say I didn't have a couple bumps and bruises from the race, but I mean, it's hard racing is going to happen. You can't get bent out of shape because somebody rides your door or squeezes you in a corner. I mean, sure, you can say something about it to yourself or um, kind of mic up with your friends and be like, yo, man, this guy's running hard. Or I like to joke around with that kind of stuff, but um, yeah, we just got to keep our cool out there. And I mean, bumps are going to happen. And like Brandon Thayer said, I mean, if it's bad enough, just mic up, apologize, watch it after the race, and hash it out with the other driver. It's the last thing we want is people coming over the mics and disparaging people during a race or um, lighting up the mics with just unnecessary airtime. So hopefully we can head to Martinsville. I want to say that cooler heads will prevail, but it's a short track, so everybody just be prepared. There probably won't be many people leaving with a 0x, but let's have some fun and um, try to leave there with some respect and dignity for each other.
Yeah. I said it on the broadcast. I was disappointed. After the checkered flag is not the time to complain, or take it out. Of course, nobody's getting hurt, but at the same time, it really is. I don't want to just say it's to me. It's more than a bad look. It's a bad look on the league, and I mean, I really think highly of Brandon in the past. So I mean, of course, I'm going to get over it, but just disappointed. We're all here just for fun. I mean, I don't know what there's to gain other than take a little aggression out, but I don't think Richard Childers is looking at Midwest Motorsports to find the next driver for their Cup Series. So if we just remember that we're here to have fun and enjoy it and live vicariously through our sim rigs, uh, and you know, everybody's here for the same reason, which is to have fun. Nothing to gain from winning other than a couple of trophies and maybe some bragging rights with your buddies. Um, just try to keep it fun and respectful for everybody and not get in that situation in the first place.
Of course. And much like James just said, although RCR ain't watching, somebody else might be.
Yeah.
But that's about all I got for the podcast this week, guys. You got anything else you want to add to our ending there or anything moving forward?
All I'm gonna say is it's a two-way street.
That is all you just said.
Hmm.
You're not going to elaborate. You're just going to leave it at it's a two-way street.
I don't think this is the right platform to do so. Voice my opinion of things.
It's a podcast, man. Worst case scenario, you just get canceled. We bring you back as somebody else.
Just
Well,
change in line after the race, like Carson Hocevar, and have your
mhm.
words, and then move on to next week.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna sit this one out.
Don't start none and won't be none. Is that what you're saying, Justin?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I don't think my opinion would go the way that you would probably be expecting. My opinion, the opinion to be, I guess.
You're
He has
entitled to
been
keep it.
unburdened by what has been.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try. I don't know. I don't. You can try and pry it out, but I don't know. I think it's
Now, Mike
uh,
already tried that down in the general chat when you wouldn't tell him your joke. So
tight-lipped.
yeah, tight-lipped. All right. Well, then we'll call it here for the night, guys. Thanks for listening. If you're listening live, thanks for listening after the fact. If you're listening to us as a replay, again, if you guys are liking the podcast, like what you're hearing, liking the guests, go ahead, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe, share it with anybody you think would have a good listen, or anybody in the community you think would listen to it. And, if you have any suggestions for guests, or if you want to be a guest, shoot me a message. We can work it out, get you on here. I'm still scheduling people as we go. Right now, I'm reaching out to a bunch of people. So, or if you have a talking point or something you'd like to see on the podcast, go ahead, shoot it on over too. So, aside from that, that's all we got for the podcast this week. So, we'll catch y'all next week, and we'll break down all the action. And well, actually, no. Next week we're going to have a pre-recorded guest on, Aaron Holroyd. So, guys, take a listen to that. I'm sure we'll have some great talking points with Aaron, and we'll be back the week after to break down all the action that happens over the week. So, until then, everybody keep the rubber side down and have a great week.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And as always, stay in your lane.
And I approve of this message.